Hi everyone, and welcome to another video. Now, what I thought I'd do for you today is cover the topic of fire lighting. Now yes, you've seen it before and you'll have seen it on other videos, but with the coming colder months I thought it'd be a good idea to show you fire lighting. So on the video we're going to cover a couple of tips to help you get a good fire, and what I mean by a good fire is a nice strong base of hot embers that you don't have to tend to every 2 minutes. So guys, let's get started. First things first, we want to clear the area we are having a fire back to solid earth. So everyone, when we come into the woods and we're going to make a fire, we obviously want to have a good selection of firewood, and we want to situate our camp ideally in a place where firewood is close to hand. Now this particular woodland has every tree you could want within the UK. It's a very nice little wood. However, this side that I'm in is predominantly ash, hazel and birch, and as you know, I've just come up with some of the best firewoods that we have in the UK. Now my personal favourite out of all the firewoods is birch. It's a very good firewood. It doesn't burn too quickly, burns nice and hot, and obviously the bark really does help you get your fire going. So one of the best things about birch is these low-lying twigs that you can see behind me here. Now a lot of the trees will have this, and all you need to do is go around and you can just snap them off like so. Now that's completely dry, otherwise it wouldn't snap like that. But it has been off the ground and in the air drying, instead of getting nice and damp and rotten on the floor. So all I do is go around and start breaking branches like so off the birch. So as you can see, we're quite quickly collecting a nice amount of firewood. So what I'll do is collect some more and I'll bring you back when we're about to start our fire. So everyone, if you went to a bushcraft school or something like that and they were teaching you how to make a fire, they will probably go through what I'm going to go through now, which is grading of firewood. And well, you're saying, why are we going to bother doing that? Why would we do this where I've set these out like that? Well, if I start a fire and chuck that on it, it's not going to burn. Fact. So what we do is we grade our firewood into thinner than a pencil thickness, a little bit thicker than a pencil, and then thumb thickness. Now once we're up to the thumb thickness firewood, that's when I would class us as having a more sustainable fire, because we won't have to tend to the fire every minute or so when we've got this size stuff on it. Now I'm only going to have a small fire today, but this can be built up to however big the fire you are making that day. So what I'm going to do now is show you our fire lay setup. So everyone, when I was collecting my firewood, I also collected some extra fuel. and this has just been set aside. It's the little bits that maybe don't fit into a category or have got bends in them or whatever that I didn't want to use for my main firewood. And I set those aside to create our fire layer with. So these two here I'm going to use for something else, and these, what we're going to do is we're just going to lay them out like so and create like a raft with them. Now what this does is we have our fire on top of this platform, and because we've got gaps between the sticks, it allows an airflow from this direction here, so it increases the airflow and it also raises it up off the cold and wet ground, so it allows us to create a large amount of heat within the centre of the fire, which is what keeps the fire going. Now these two sticks I'm going to lay across each other like so. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my tinder out, which today is not a natural tinder, it's good old petroleum jelly cotton balls. Very cheap, very effective. Keep them in this nice little tub here, which you've probably seen plenty of times if you're a long-term subscriber. And I've just got my fire steel ready to go. So why do we do this here? Well, out of the fire triangle we've got fuel, so we've got nice dry fuel all graded up. We're going to create the heat with the tinder here, but oxygen is key. Now although I've allowed extra oxygen by creating the raft, it may not be enough to help our fire get going at the beginning. So what we've done is we've created this cross here, and what we do is we take our initial firewood and we lay it across like so. Now I will demonstrate this when it's going, but if there isn't enough oxygen we can lift the fuel wood up like so to help give more oxygen. So I'm just going to take our initial fuel off and we're going to actually start the fire now. So I'm going to come around the other side just so you can clearly see what I'm doing. Just make sure everything's right before we set it all on fire. Right, ready to go. So right, now we want our fuel wood, our initial fuel, straight on top like so. Now as you can see it's struggling for a little bit of oxygen, so if we raise it up like so, we're allowing more oxygen under there and allowing our initial fuel wood to start going. Now when I see it peeking through the top, when I see the flames coming through the top like that, I can let it go down a bit more. Like so. Now we're ready for our pencil thick. So when I do my pencil thick, still want to keep this initial shape at the beginning, just so that if it is struggling we can pop it back up again to allow more oxygen. But I like to try and not just chuck them on, just lay them on. Because the fire is still in its early stages and it still could go out, so I like to lay them on like so. Remember, it's a fire lay. You create the fire, you don't just throw things on and it'll burn effectively. It doesn't work like that. So we can still increase the oxygen right there and then lay it back down when we've got a bit more oxygen in there and a bit more heat. So let that burn for a few seconds and then we're going to go straight onto our thicker stuff. Now with this, what I'm going to do is start to create a pyramid fire layer, which is my preferred method, or my preferred fire layer, because I've got enough heat in there now to keep the fire going, and it's clearly getting enough oxygen. If it wasn't, it would smoke a lot. There's not very much smoke at all. So what I'll do is leave this to go for a few minutes, and then I'll bring you back when we've got our sustainable fire. So everyone, you've joined me as I sit by the fire and wait for my water to boil for my drink. So we've got the fire to a nice sustainable level now, and it's kicking out some nice heat, and I could just throw more firewood on if I want the fire to go bigger, or I can let it die down if I was going to be cooking some meat or something that I didn't want to burn, or I could just keep it going at the sustainable level it is now by popping a few bits of firewood on every 10 or 15 minutes, and it'll burn for as long as I want it to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit here, have a nice chill in the woods, and wait for my coffee, have a nice drink, and then I'm going to let the fire die down. And the last thing I'm going to show you is fire cleanup, which is obviously very, very important as well. So stay tuned guys, and I'll bring you back for that. So everyone, I've had my brew, had a really nice chill by the fire, and now the fire's died down. Now you can see with my fire management, I managed to get the fire left with just embers, no stray bits of partially burnt wood or anything along those lines. Just got a nice pile of embers here. Now obviously we could build this back up into a fire, you could do some cooking on it, but it's getting dusk now and it's time for me to head home and have my tea. So what I've done is manage the fire so that hopefully it will take a minimal amount of water to make sure the fire is out. So what I'm going to do is just pour there we go. Just pour my water on there like that. And now what we need to do is mix it through and make sure that we get those embers nice and cold. And also I like to take a stick and just move some of the ground. Do apologise, there's just going to be a train passing, I think. So this is what I like to do, get in the ground and just make sure there's no embers about. Now this will be very hot, so what we want to do is make sure we can touch it with our hands, like I'm doing now, and then we scatter this charcoal matter around because the ground can't deal with too much charcoal. What I like to do is just take handfuls and scatter them about. Now with me doing this with my hands, I can feel that these are at the right temperature for me to scatter them into the ground. Guys, here we are. This is our site of our fire, and as you can see there's now no visible fire scarring about, and we're going to do the final part now, so I'll just change the camera angle. So guys, final part. All the leaves that were once covering the area need to go back. Now I use a twig to do this rather than your feet or your hands, because the twig gives a bit more of a random coverage, because remember, in nature things are a lot more random than they are in our modern day. And that's it. So everyone, that is fire from start to finish. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you can take some useful tips from the video and put them into your bushcraft skill set. Thank you for watching guys. Please remember to comment, like and subscribe, and until next time, take care, and I'll see you on another video.